Hey everybody, two Alpha Gals here. I'm Debbie Nichols.
And I'm Candace Mathis, and you're listening to In the Tall Grass, where we're sharing stories of reinvention, resilience, and rediscovering joy.
Whether it's facing Alpha Gal syndrome or any other redefining chapter of life, we all have to learn how to navigate the journey through the tall grass. So here we go.
So we are here today with Renia Butler, allergy ally, advocate, and mama of two sweet little girls. Renia is also the founder of Black Allergy Mama, which is a website, an amazing blog. So thank you, Renia, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Candace and Debbie, for having me. I am so excited to speak with you ladies today.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you here. You have no idea. We have been like counting down the days till we talk to you. So let's start with reinvention. So you started initially blogging as a food blogger. We'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of the genre of food that you blogged to and a little bit about how you got started in the blogging world and what changed and made you more of a food allergy blogger.
Sure. So years ago, before children were invented, I was, out and about and would eat and drink anything pretty much. And Houston is where I currently reside. And at the time, Houston was becoming the culinary capital of the country. And there was a new restaurant popping up on the corner, and you could catch me tableside or porch side or balcony, patio side, enjoying all that Houston had to offer. So I started with Yelp and I just really started highlighting the restaurants and foods that I really enjoyed. And then it sort of evolved to where I, partnered with a lot of, began a food blogger collective where we sort of highlight everything from food to beverages to chefs to all the moving and shaking in the food scene in Houston. So in 2018, has totally turned my world upside down and sort of altered the trajectory when it came to the way that I went about my sharing and highlighting my appreciation for food and beverage. So at 4 months, Emory started to show and highlight some symptoms of atopic dermatitis, also known as eczema. And we did not know what it was. One thing I will say, and then I will probably get into this more as we sort of talk, but one thing I will say about being a first-time mom is that you really have no idea what to expect. I think society puts you in this lane where you are all knowing and you have this baby and you should just know exactly what's going to happen. But what really happens is you have this child and you know nothing. And then they see you home with this child and they're like, good day, ma'am. And so she started to show some symptoms of atopic dermatitis, some other symptoms. She would spit up a lot. She was very fussy. And to me, that signaled that there was something not right. So we went to the pediatrician and we would ask questions. Is this normal? And our pediatrician assured us, yes, it's normal. It's fine. It progressively got worse to where to me, it was not normal. So we were referred to an allergist. They did an SPT test, also known as a skin prick test, tested her for the top 8 allergies, all of them of which came back positive. So from that moment forward, 9 months forward, she has been top 8 free. So in addition to her being top 8 free, because she was exclusively breastfed, I also had to alter everything that I knew when it came to my diet. So I was staying from all top 8 for as long as she was breastfed, which was 32 months. So she was almost 3 when I stopped breastfeeding. So in addition to eliminating those things from her diet, I also did a full elimination diet, and we saw great progress. And to this day, she's now 4. She no longer is showing as many allergy symptoms, but I will say that there are times that there are things she consumes that we did not know were an allergen, and she does have a slight flare up. Luckily, we've never had any anaphylactic issues. but yeah, so that's sort of where I started and what sort of caused a transition or led me to sort of switch it up a little bit. And now I focus more on allergen free, allergen friendly recipes and things like that.
And your recipes actually look delicious because I was reading your blog the other day and you had a post about it was a sweet potato barbecue chicken casserole thing, like a layered dish. And I'll tell you what, I have not stopped thinking about it since I saw it. And it's going to get made in my house.
Yeah.
It looks delicious. It's like all my favorite things all together in one dish. And
yeah, that's definitely our favorite recipe right now.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm gonna give it a try.
Yeah, it's crock pot season here, so that's definitely something that we enjoy doing.
Yes, same here. And I do my chicken the same way. I do my chicken with the barbecue sauce in the crock pot.
Yes.
It and then do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So. And look at us being so excited about talking about one of your recipes, you know, talking about food. That kind of segues to the next question where, you know, eating a restricted diet so typically seems like a loss because it is, right? We're giving up so much, but you have really beautifully stepped into reinventing, you know, incredible recipes to adapt to your child's needs.
Oh man.
And it's a perfect example too, talking about the barbecue chicken sweet potato casserole, because it's not like, I'm not saying, oh, it looks good for an allergen free recipe. I'm saying that looks really good, period. So I'm wondering what has shocked you the most about eating allergen safe? And do you have, well, you said that recipe is one of your favorite now, but do you have other favorite recipes?
So, so that's definitely one of ours now. I love sweets. So I have an apple cinnamon roll cake recipe that's on the blog too. That is our favorite. Emery cannot do apples, but that circles me back around to your first question, which is what has been most shocking about eating allergen friendly or allergen safe is that the little person that we are creating these allergy friendly recipes for could care less about them. She will take one bite and she will fake a smile, rub her tummy, give me the thumbs up, and then quickly ask for her gluten-free chicken nuggets and fries or spaghetti. So I've just really had to like lean into that because for a while when I lifted my life up, flipped it upside down and moved it over here for this little person to just say, you know what, I appreciate it, but I don't want it. It's just like, I had to remove my feelings from the situation. And I'm really leaning into the fact that she's 4. When I talk to other mothers of 4-year-olds, they're like, yeah, my kid only eats Eggos. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm winning because at least she's doing like spaghetti and nuggets and fries, and I can get her to eat some carrots sometimes. So I'm just going to keep introducing. I think nutritionists say introduce something to a child at least 7 times. I think I'm at 27, but I will continue because she'll take a bite of some stuff. And I think for me, that's all that matters is that she knows that she can always count on mama to provide her safe, delicious food in my kitchen. Now, if she wants it or not, that's up to her. But at least she knows that there's a safe space for her always here. And I think for me, that's what I value most as, you know, as her mama.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think it is so important to emphasize how fantastic that is, that you are leaning into her being 4, right? You know, it's not just that you're feeding her a well-balanced diet. It's that you understand who she's trying to be at this age and accepting that and being okay with, you know, sometimes giving the chicken nuggets and spaghetti and sometimes introducing new things. And it's nice because I feel like diagnosis with allergies so much of the time just means, like you said, turning things on their head, turning things upside down. And so to be able to give her a little bit of normalcy as a 4-year-old kind of makes you a super mom.
Oh, wow. And that's what I strive to be.
Yeah, and I was going to say, hang in there. You know, like as I'm sure I can speak for Debbie when I say this, because now our kids are young adults and teenagers. And I think every parent, allergy or not, struggles with that with their kids. You know, we go through it at some point. My kids hit it later. Like my 17-year-old has now become the picky one. So it's like, you can get a reprieve at some point. Either it's on the front end or the back end, but I think it's beautiful that you are just providing nutrition for her, and she will come around. It will happen.
Absolutely. And I think so maybe what I should have said is that is the most ironic thing that I've learned from transitioning to allergy friendly food, but probably one of the most shocking things that I've learned is how difficult this country makes it to live that lifestyle. I've been doing, so I'm like, I don't want to say I'm a researcher because I'm not. I just sort of have enveloped myself in being a source of comfort for myself by knowing and not relying on others to provide me with the information that I need to feel safe, that I need for my family and my children to feel safe. So just in researching what other countries do, like the restrictive regulations and the precautions that other countries proactively seek out to ensure that their citizens are safe when consuming food is just not something that we have here in this country. And I don't know if we ever will. I mean, I think what I'm learning is that it's less about the people here and it's more about big pharma. It's more about money, and that's really scary for me. So I think that's another reason that I, ensure that I'm reading labels, that I am creating recipes that are safe not only for Emery but for Ellis and for my family as well. My mom has a garden, so that allows us to have some sort of fresh food come into our kitchen, and I just those are just the types of things that on top of being an allergy mom, I think those are things that just as moms trying to ensure that their children and families have a good diet, a nutritious diet. Those are things that I've just researched to just sort of get an understanding of what other people do, why and how, and what the benefit of that is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I think, when you were talking, it really reminded me of a session that Debbie and I went to at the Fair Food Allergy Summit. And there were two founders of amazing companies partake in Better Bites and Dave Bloom with Snack Safely. And they talked at length about manufacturing. And, I'm like you, Renia, like I've done the deep dive. I think when you're put into this world, you have to, I mean, at least that's just how I operate. I also just want as much information as possible to make the best decision. And I did not realize that there are only 13 manufacturers in this country that are truly allergy safe. That actually blew my mind. 13.
Yeah, 13. Mm-hmm.
Or the 30, what is it, 33, 35 million people with allergies? Yeah.
So yeah, do your due diligence, and it made me want to support, those companies even more for the work that they're doing to ensure our safety, to have, if we need a quick pancake mix or a cookie or something, that we know that it is truly allergen safe. And I walked away from that session with just this newfound appreciation for those companies.
Absolutely. It comes down to making it yourself.
Right.
It comes down to figuring out the ratios to create your own gluten-free flour, which is where I feel like I am in my life right now. Never thought I'd be there. Whoever thought I'd be a scientist? I'm like a chemist.
Right.
I love that.
Changed my life. I'm like, what am I doing what am I doing in here?
And what's funny about that is I actually have a degree in chemistry. Like that's what I studied in school.
Oh, wow.
And I'll start to think about the fact that, I'm trying to be an advocate and blogging and doing the podcast and everything. And I'm like, well, how does chemistry fit into this? You just hit the nail on the head. That's how chemistry fits into this.
It does.
And it makes it kind of full circle, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think we could spend a whole hour just talking about that side of, the challenge, I guess, if you will,
absolutely,
that we have to navigate. But I'd love to know, we get a lot of comments on the dual meaning of our name, Two Alpha Gals. Yes, we're two women with alpha gal syndrome. but we also like the underlying hint about us being like alpha kind of superwomen. Can you talk to us a little bit more about your name and why you refer to yourself as Black Allergy Mama?
Sure. Well, the literal response would be surprise. I am a Black woman. My daughter has allergies and she calls me mama. So that just fit perfectly.
I love it.
Just fit perfectly. Yeah. And so aside from the literal response being the Black Allergy Mama, I noticed as I was searching to sort of figure out what was already out there in the allergy world, I didn't see anybody that looked like me. I didn't see anybody that looked like my children. I didn't see anybody that I could lean on as a resource that would understand when I'm explaining to them what my child's eczema looks like. When you go to and Google search it, you don't see it. So for me, it was more about the lack of representation in the social media world, of Black families managing allergies and knowledge of allergies within the Black community. And I want to be very conscious and clear when I talk about the Black community, because 2020, what was that, 2 years ago, there was this BIPOC movement, which is Black, Indigenous, people of color. Well, people of color is this vast umbrella of people who I do not represent and who do not necessarily represent me. So when I speak about my community, I am specifically talking about the Black community because that's where I come from. That's what I know best. Right. So when it comes to why I selected my name, it was because I'm hoping that I can be a resource, create a space for people who are now searching, on Instagram or Facebook or, Google, what have you, for Black families managing food allergies. They see me and they find comfort in that. And we can begin to add to the allergy community that is already there. It's never to take away from, it's always to add to.
I love that bit at the end there that you said too. Yeah, it's always to add to, right? The National Institute of Health said earlier this year that, and I'm quoting this, the overall prevalence of food allergy appears to be increasing and disproportionately affecting minority groups. So racial and socioeconomic disparities are evident across all aspects of food allergy care, including diagnosis, prevention, acute management, such as access to epinephrine and autoinjectors, visits to the emergency department, and even long-term management like oral immunotherapy. And so I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm wondering if navigating life with a child with food allergies has sparked a new passion for advocacy in you, and really specifically as Black Allergy Mama.
Absolutely. Because I'll tell you, before I had a daughter with food allergies, two of the things that I advocated for were Taco Bell to bring back the Mexican pizza and bars to stop putting paper straws in my drinks. That's as far as my advocacy went before I had a daughter with food allergies. So that lets you know like where I stood on all things of importance back then. But yeah, my passion for advocacy has completely transformed, because not only am I advocating for Emory, I'm advocating for those family members of mine who had eczema and did not know it. Those family members of mine who suffered, anaphylactic attacks, at severe asthma attacks, and had no idea why, because because they couldn't get in to see a pediatrician, that they didn't have insurance. Their pediatricians weren't, well versed in exactly what was going on with them, so I'm speaking for a collective of people, and I'm grateful to be an ally to those who may need help managing any new allergy or eczema diagnosis or identifying safe foods and recipes.
And that is so important. And I'm going to read one more thing from this study, because the conclusion from it said that active efforts to decrease racial and socioeconomic disparities through education, research, and advocacy will be important to help improve health outcomes in food allergy for all children, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. So that is actually what you're doing. You are putting a foot forward to get ahead of this, to try to make things easier for all children. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you for allowing me to be on this platform and sort of share that with those who are listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because everyone deserves equal care. And I know it's such a huge disparity, period. You know, we
Yeah,
sit here and go
yeah.
to that. I mean, it's so disturbing to me on so many levels. And I can imagine as a Black woman who has a child navigating this, you have to think about, like we talked about, you know, in a call prior to this, about, is your teacher going to care? Is her
Mm,
teacher going to care for her the way you would? You know, it's like
mhm.
those things Debbie and I have never had to think about, you know, and so we love being a platform for you to be able to, you know, speak your heart and your needs and have your voice heard, because at Two Alpha Gals, we want to be the best ally possible for all people.
I love that. I love that. And you know, I think back to when Emery was first diagnosed with food allergies, and I mentioned, you know, not having anyone to turn to because, you know, the knowledge just what is not there in the Black community about food allergies, about eczema. I did a post on Instagram a couple days ago, and sometimes on Instagram I have to be very hesitant about the way I word things because they only allow me so many characters. So I'm really trying to like get my point across, but not ruffle feathers in a certain way. But in the Black community, let's say we'll say like this. So Emory is having her Thanksgiving feast on Monday at school. So her principal reaches out to me, you know, and she lets me know that they're having their Thanksgiving feast. So Emory goes to a Christian academy.
Okay.
And one thing, you know, you may or may not know about the Black church specifically is that a lot of the food is prepared by Black elders of the church. Well, one thing Black elders of the church don't know or believe in or understand is the severity of food allergy. So while they're slathering things in butter and pouring milk on everything, I'm asking them if modifications can be made. And there's not this pushback, but sort of like this, she'll be fine, you know? And so it's more about me, one, being comfortable enough to not challenge my elders, but teach them something that they may not know. About food allergies, and two, being an advocate for my child so that she can see that mommy's going to stick up for me and ensure that I'm always safe. You know, I think in addition to assisting people who are managing food allergies, I also want to create a space for people who do not have food allergies, have no one in their family with food allergies, to have that information so that they don't come across as if they don't care. You know, if you have the information, it is no longer an excuse for you to say, oh, she will be fine, because there is a level of severity. Someone could be seriously hurt if she came across, you know, an allergen that, you know, she should not have. So all that to say, I hope to be a resource for folks in general when it comes to food allergies and food safety.
That's great. And
Mm-hmm.
what came to mind for me when you were talking about that is how tricky and complicated that is, because you're not just talking about educating anyone. I mean, you are talking about trying to educate everyone, but not just anyone. But when you're talking about going back to the elders in the church, you know, there's that conflict between tradition and
Right.
what it is that you need for your daughter to keep her safe. So it's
Yeah, and I think it adds to the complexity, you know, a bit, because if you look back generationally, no matter what your ethnicity is, food allergies were not really a thing, right? Like in our parents, our grandparents' generation, like it may have been there, but they didn't have the knowledge to understand it. So it's like a layered effect in,
Absolutely.
you know, in your church community, or, you know, in the Black community in general, or, you know, it adds to it. And I don't know, like, I think it's wonderful that you want to educate more people. And I really hope that people are open, you know, because I think that's what we have to have, is the openness
Absolutely.
of,
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, you know, when we found out that Emory, one thing that pediatricians ask you when your child is diagnosed with food allergies or eczema is who else in your family has this, because it's genetic, or they're expecting you to be able to say, oh, my grandmother or my grandfather or, you know, my great aunt had eczema. But in my family, one, we're a very small family. And so I was unable to, you know, link sort of link that back. I don't have grandparents or great grandparents. That's a whole nother conversation piece about, just the Black family in this country, sort of what we're lacking in the information and details and the keys to our family that we're lacking and what we don't know. So when they asked, of course I said, I don't know anyone who has food allergies. But once I started talking to, my aunts and my uncles and sharing with them Emery's story, teaching them about what she's experiencing, they would say, oh, your cousin had experienced that, or I experienced that. And so now we are able to have these conversations, and they are saying, maybe I did have food allergies. Maybe they do have eczema. So it's almost like I am assisting them in a form of treatment, which is, has been beautiful for us because it sort of allows us to bond in a way. I don't know if you want to call that trauma bond, but no, we're sort of like bonded, in a way to sort of gain a better understanding of not only food allergies, but one another.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And doesn't that just feed into the support that we all need?
Oh
Because
man.
Candace and I talk about this all the time. I think the reason that we've been able to sort of manage our alpha gal syndrome so well is because we're doing it together, right?
Yeah.
When there's somebody else who can identify with what you're going through,
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge bonding point. So I'm glad that that's happening for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, and kind of to that same vein, you mentioned in one of your posts that you had to rethink speaking to a mental health professional because of the stigma attached. So how has your mind changed about approaches to nurturing your mental health and self-care through Emery's allergy journey and your journey with this?
Yeah, I think before having Emery or before having daughters, that's a huge responsibility in itself, having daughters. They're watching everything that I do. So I think, I had to assess who was attaching or associating the stigma with self-care or the stigma to, therapy or whatever way I want to go about ensuring that I'm mentally sound. And when I assessed who was attaching that stigma, I realized that it was not me. And in that moment, I think I realized that for the sake of myself and my family and, the nurturing of my mental health and self-care needed to be priority. Yeah, I look at mental health totally different now that I have children. I found for the time being what I need to be mentally sound. And that's the ability to ask for help when I need it. And I have a funny story about that. Asking for help when I need it and surrounding myself with people who aren't afraid of having the hard conversations, like I just said, about, food allergies and the evolution of that. People who aren't afraid of having those conversations and people who love us enough to both listen to and hear us when it comes to how we manage Emery's allergies. That to me is me ensuring that I am mentally safe. And the funny story about help when I need it. Listen, I will tell you that whatever you believe in spiritually, whatever it is where your heart lies, the creator is always looking out for me and my family. There are times when I'm with the girls and I'm at the grocery store and it is 1,000 degrees outside in Houston. I'm taking Ellis's car seat out of the basket, putting it in the back of the car. I'm unloading the groceries. I'm putting Emery in the car, making sure they're safe. And as soon as I let the trunk down of my vehicle, I kid you not, there is always a mama behind me saying, "Can I take your basket? I'll take your basket for you. Can I push your basket to the stall?" You guys, literally, I could cry every week at HEB in the parking lot because it's just beyond anything that I could ask for. It's like sometimes I feel like when I'm at my lowest moment, if I just push a little further, someone is always there to catch and protect to make sure that I am okay. And that is more than I can ask for. And sometimes I feel like if you breathe into that, you give gratitude for that, it will continue to roll in your life that way. And so that is what I live by. That is my truth right there.
I love that so much. And it reminds me of I feel like I get pulled as the giving person at times, in the grocery store. I don't know, I get these pings where I'm like, you need to ask if that person needs help, or, you know what I mean? Like, I think we have to tap into that, right? Like listening to those little nudges, because we don't know how we're really affecting that other person, like you just said, for the whole day. And it does. I remember being a mom with 3 stair steps, you know, of my kids are all 2 years apart. And just that simple act of me not having to walk the cart back. It's like these little moments of silver linings that I think we do have to be grateful for.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you spoke about it too, because one of the things we hear most from people who are talking to us about food allergies is that they feel so alone, right? And people are out there. I think the majority of people in my life actually do want to help me, as much as I don't want to have to ask them to help me. But I feel like when you open yourself up to that, and you express gratitude for it, and you face it as what it is that you need in that moment in time, then I think that the universe or the creator, or however you want to look at it, really has our backs, right? For those.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you shared that. And I hope that people who are listening, who are feeling lonely right now, will consider doing that. Will consider looking a little harder and opening themselves up to finding that support somewhere. So aside from just evolving the blog, in what other ways have you changed after having a child with food allergy? And, you know, has this affected your family dynamics? I know she's your first, but how has it changed things for you?
Before Emory, we ate out a lot. I ate out a lot. I couldn't tell you the last time we ate inside of a restaurant. And I will tell you that I learned so much after listening to your podcast with Chef Jeff of Your Allergy Chefs.
Yeah. Just Chef
Oh
Joel.
man.
Yeah.
Chef Joel. Is it Chef Joel? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
There may be a time, because of the information that he shares, that I test out some of those gems that he, dropped in your podcast. So Emery can eat food outside of Mama's Kitchen or Us. I'm sure she would appreciate that. I learned so much. I learned so much from that podcast. That was absolutely fantastic.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. He
Yeah.
is a wealth of information and such a nice guy.
It was great. It definitely, got us excited about potentially going to Disney World one day. She's been talking about that, but yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
as far as our family dynamic, as I mentioned, so I'm an only child. So we're for most of my life, it was just me, my mom, and my stepdad. I met my husband in college. We got married, have been together we've been married for, it'll be 12 years next year. But we've been together for almost 20 years, which is crazy to us. But we're a great team. And I think that, in addition to everything else evolving, is something that, has allowed us to best manage Emery's allergies. We're in constant communication about what works best, what didn't work. We're firm believers in doing whatever we can to ensure that she has an outstanding quality of life. Um, and we look at her allergies as a blessing. We learn so much from her. We learn so much from the research that we do. We learn so much from, being able to share what we learn with our family members. I think they embrace us a different way. I think they respect us differently because of our journey being so different. I think my mom looks at me now as a mom, as an adult. Before having children, she was like, this is still my 17-year-old running around messing up everything. But now that I'm a mom and she sees that I'm taking things very seriously and I play no games when it comes to the safety and well-being of my children, I think that just, allows her to know that she did a great job well done. I think that brings us closer.
I love that.
Yep.
Right? Because we have to find those silver linings too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is challenging living with food allergies, challenging, I'm sure, even more so raising a child with food allergies, because you are responsible for them. But it sounds like you're doing a really great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and support is so important, right? I mean, I think we talk about this all the time because it is such a cornerstone, I think, for healing and for stepping into joy and embracing what your new normal is, if you will. And I love that you have that in your husband and, your support system. And I think we all three here want to be that for people that might not have that at home, that because it is important to move forward to have that.
Absolutely.
So we were looking on your blog not too long ago. We just love it. It's so awesome. You are quite the little superwoman on there too, I have to say. Love like the animated version of yourself. It's so beautiful. It's very empowering. So you talk about on there that happiness is not a destination, it's a state of being, which I love, love, love that. So how do you find happiness amidst the struggle of navigating life, raising a child with food allergies? And, we all have moments of the up and down. So how do you tamp down or move past the feelings of overwhelm or worry or loss to return to that state of happiness?
Well, I will say, mamas, myself included, we are guilty of always thinking and worrying about what's to come, what tomorrow may bring, I should say. I think I'm realizing that for me, conquering today is enough. If I can rest my head on my pillow at night and look at my baby's face, my husband's face, and my daughter's face and know that they are okay, I've done what I can do today. And for the moment, that is enough.
That's powerful.
That's great advice. Yeah.
I got the chills over here.
We get so wrapped up in tomorrow and yeah, that's where I'll leave that. Conquering today is enough for me. So when I'm faced with sadness or worry or loss, I embrace it. So we're all Brene Brown fans. And she has a podcast called Unlocking Us, right? So she did this interview with Susan Cain. She's an author of this book called Quiet. I don't know if you guys caught that episode, but at the end of that episode, Brene said something along the lines of, and I'm going to paraphrase it and use the words that I want to use. When you are faced with sadness or worry or loss, you have to understand that that pain is not a diversion from the main road. It's a part of the main road, so like if your road is happiness, if your road is joy, don't let those things divert you from continuing to travel on down that path. It's just a bump. Ride on over that bump and keep it moving, because there are people out there who need you. There are brighter days. I can promise you that if you ride over that speed bump, you will make it on down that street. I think all of us want to be happy. All of us want to find our joy. We just have to know that we deserve it. And sort of embrace that and really truly believe that you deserve to be happy. You deserve joy, because when you get a little bit, you give some. Right. That's how I feel.
Yes, you absolutely are right. We agree with you anyway. When you're talking about conquering today, so Candace and I have this daily calendar. We actually have the same one because I got one last year or the year before, and it was just the most brilliant thing that we actually refer to it as the Oracle. But it's How to Be a Badass by Jen Sincero. And so just a few days ago, the verse on it was saying one way to manage the overwhelm is to really just take things one moment at a time. And you know what? Don't stress about what's on the other side of that. You just get through that moment, and then you get to the next moment, and you get through that moment, and you can really avoid the overwhelm that way, or manage it anyway.
But I think when we talk about food allergies or allergies in general, it's just this thing that when you have a child, that's one thing you never thought you had to worry about was the food. And I think I mentioned that, I can't remember if a previous podcast that I had listened to, the bloggers were saying that, I had this baby and I could worry about everything else, but I never thought I'd have to worry about what I fed it. That was not something a stressor that I thought I was going to have to deal with. But when you have a child with food allergies, you can get caught up in worrying about what tomorrow is going to look like. I think you have to make a conscious and active choice to not allow yourself to get too far ahead, because that causes all sorts of issues, in itself. And when you have children with food allergies, I think you have to have a level of strength and a level of endurance to carry on for them. At least that's what I'm learning with my 4-year-old, is that if she sees mama tired, she will say she's tired, and I don't need that. Sometimes I need her to fight on too.
Yeah, having daughters is something, isn't it? Because, and you alluded to this earlier, there were so many things about myself that I wanted to raise my daughter differently, right? I wanted her to be more confident than I was, less dependent than I was, all these things that we're critical of ourselves about being. And so sometimes it would take moments of me pretending to feel some way that I did not tired or not worn out, not overwhelmed, not sad, because I wanted to teach her. And that's not to say, it's not to say teaching them how to get through those emotions isn't important, because that absolutely is. But there were moments where you have to sort of fight through that to be setting a really good example.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wondering what your big dreams and goals are for Black Allergy Mama, but also I want to know what your big dreams for your daughters
are. So I think for Black Allergy, I think both of them I have very, very simple answers. But for Black Allergy Mama, the brand, I would, hope to become a safe and brave space for marginalized communities managing allergies. I want to empower, I want to encourage, I want to represent. I hope that if there are, Black mamas and papas who will hear this podcast, that they are proud of what I am trying to do, because I'm definitely here for them, and I definitely don't plan on stopping anytime soon. There are so many things that I want to do, but I think as a brand, I want to represent safety and bravery for a community that at times is voiceless. What are my dreams for my daughters? You know, my dreams for my daughters would be that I am able to provide them with the tools needed to actualize their dream.
That is so beautifully said.
Thank you.
Yep. And I think you're doing that, Renia, not only for your daughters, but for the whole community. Like you embody that. You embody this very beautiful, brave, empowered, like light. You just exude it, and people are going to know that your place is safe.
That means so very much. I appreciate that more than you know.
Seriously. So we appreciate what you're doing, and however we can help in that, we love to do more podcasts. You just let us know.
Thank you. Thank you both.
You're a voice that needs to be heard right now. And so we're really grateful that you're here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with that too, do you have any advice for parents of children that are newly diagnosed with food allergies or coming into this community?
Yeah. Another story about my mom. So she is a retired school teacher, and one thing that she taught me was that one of her quotes is, "The squeaky wheel gets the grease." When Emory first started school, I was so wrapped up and concerned with how the administrators would perceive my incessant need to ensure there were no allergens in the classroom, that the tables were being wiped down, but only being wiped down with a certain type of wipe. And that when she went, when her diaper was changed, that they only utilized certain types of wipes because her skin was so sensitive. And my mom was just like, "Renia, you have to not be afraid to advocate for your child." She said, "The squeaky wheel gets the grease." And by that, what she means is raising your voice will ensure that you are heard, so that they know you're serious and they know that you care. And so I took that and I own that. And so I think I stand in the strength that provided me, coming from somebody that I love and respect so much, to say, keep doing what you're doing. So I am that squeaky wheel, and we get grease.
I think that's such an important message to give too, to anybody out here raising kids with food allergies. I mean, it's one thing for us living with food allergies, but it goes to another level when you're raising kids with food allergies. And like I mentioned before, you're responsible for them. And you've got to learn to get uncomfortable. You've got to learn to be your own advocate, because a lot of times nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah, and I think sometimes I would share with other parents that it is okay to seek counsel outside of your pediatrician. I don't expect my pediatrician to know everything. I've learned that they don't know everything. I've learned that when I am in the pediatrician's office or even my allergist's office, they're not learning about seed storage proteins. They don't have time to be on Google learning about what sort of proteins are in certain foods that line up with proteins that are in other foods, which makes those foods similar in, allergen reaction. That's probably something they learned in school. If it's not in your face every day, it's not something that you're able to easily regurgitate. But I'm at home learning so that I can have the answers. I could sit in allergist's office and say things to them, and they'll say, wow, I had no idea. I'd never heard of that. Let me go look that up. And that's not a problem for me. I understand that. But sometimes it is okay for you to ask questions. If your pediatrician doesn't know, ask them to refer you out. It is nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with getting a no until you get a yes.
Yes, that is really good advice too. And I think about, often, we have such great access a lot of times to medical care in this country, but we have a right to good medical care. And so if you're not receiving that from your medical professional, there is nothing wrong with going and finding somebody else. And I think that goes for mental health too, right? If you're stepping out on a ledge to put yourself somewhere where you are not comfortable by talking to a mental health professional, and they don't match up with you, find somebody new, because everybody is so different. Everybody knows different things. And some people are more willing to learn than others.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. And I think it just kind of drives the point home that we are ultimately responsible for the betterment of our health. I mean, even as exhausted as we are, it took me 2 years to find my team of people, and I was tired, so I get it for people that are listening that are just really, really tired of having to keep searching, but it is so worth it. We have to, we just have to, we have to be our own advocates. We have to find support. We have to give ourselves so much self-compassion, because we deserve it.
You're worth it. Yeah, we're worth it.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Well, are you ready for our last question?
I am.
Here we go. Is there a song that brings you joy, either now in this moment or for all time? And you can branch that out to an artist or an album or however you want to do it. But is there a piece of music or something of that nature that brings you joy?
Okay, so I'll share with you how I feel about joy, the word itself. I guess I feel like joy sort of endures hardship and trials and connects with meaning and purpose. So my song, and it's very specific because I'm hoping you guys will go listen to it and enjoy it with me vicariously. The song is called Teach You. It's the acoustic version by Emily King featuring Sarah Bareilles.
Oh,
y'all love Sarah, don't you?
Yeah,
I do too. Yeah, it's powerful. I took that question very seriously. I went and I listened to my playlist and I was like, is this moving me? Is this moving me right now? And when I got to that last night, as I was rocking my baby to sleep, I was like, this is it. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen.
I love that you took the question so seriously. We can tell.
I love it too. I love it too. And I'm sitting here, I'm going to have to, when I re-listen to this, I'm going to have to verbatim put your quote, because that was some powerful stuff too about joy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wrote it down too. Yeah. And we honestly, Renia, can't thank you enough for spending this time with us today. It was enlightening to us and it was beautiful. And you have so much to share with this community and this world. So thank you for giving us some of your time today.
I genuinely appreciate you, ladies, and I appreciate this space, and I appreciate the work that you are doing, because I know it takes a lot of work to run your blog, your platform, your social media, and this podcast. And you're doing great work. I binged all of your episodes. And I really love everything you got going. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I think what sets you ladies apart is the authenticity that I can feel radiating from your skin, and that I think you're just genuine. Like, you really care about the folks that come on your podcast. You provide them the space to say what they need to say, because you know it's helping one, if not all. And that is my thing. I am here to help one person. If I help two, I've completely won. But you've helped me so much in so many ways through the people that you've brought on this show. I have a notebook, and I've jotted down something that I've learned from each episode, and I carry it with me, and I can't wait to keep using the tools that you ladies lay out.
That means so much. You have no idea. I think that is the kindest compliment that we have received. It's like,
you deserve it. You're worth it.
Well, we are so appreciative of you. And we're so excited to continue this friendship and conversation. And we hope we can do it again soon.
Same. Thank you, ladies.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Thank you for joining us today on In the Tall Grass. Visit us at 2alphagals.com. That's TWOalphagals.com. Or you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at 2alphagals. If you enjoyed listening, please leave a review and help us grow this community.
We're all faced with obstacles on our journey, whether it be food allergies or tick-borne diseases. You might outgrow the reactions, but you won't outgrow the person you become. Ticks suck, but life doesn't have to.